Welcome to the 2023 CTE Summer Conference, Making Waves into the Workforce. Welcome to the session on ASE Program Accreditation. My name is Jim Presley. Before we get started with the updates, I'd like to share with you the various program areas that I am responsible for. Responsible for automotive service courses, collision repair courses, the metals manufacturing courses, welding courses, and now we have two new middle grade courses, exploring safety and tools in the trades and exploring automotive service. So let's start off this session by looking at the various resources that the ASE Education Foundation has. First, we'll look at the ASE Education Foundation's website. From there, we'll look at the resources tab and the information under that. Then we will discuss the login process into the portal, and what to do if you have you forgot your password, or if you've never been there before. And then at the bottom there is the ASE Education Foundation's web address. Here's a screenshot of the ASE Education Foundation's website. There's a lot of information on this. At the top there, it's got links to the ASE entry-level certification tests for industry and for schools, information on Adopt a School. Find a Program is where industry and the public can go to find accredited schools. Also, Find a Rep. For North Carolina, I am the ASE field manager also, so here to help you. And below that, a little bit about ASE and about the foundation and the program accreditation. But what we'll look at today is the resources. So from this, the ASE Education Foundation website, click on resources. Also, there's events and FAQ. But today we'll look at resources. When we click the Resources tab from the ASE Education Foundation's homepage, this is what should come up. On the Resources page, you'll see a number of topics. Today, we're going to look at the program standards drop-down, accreditation forms drop-down, and the advisory committee. There's a lot more information there with mentor internships, scholarships and tool plans. The instructor resources is a great resource for new instructors and established instructors, going over the basics. And again, a link to the education entry-level certifications. I skipped one there. The industry provided resources. It's a good spot to find the webinar schedule and also access to ASE Delco training. And then at the last part there is presentations, various presentations. But today we're going to look at the first three. So let's start looking at these resources, and first the program standards. So by clicking on the program standards, we see we have a drop down. So zooming in on these program standards, we can see that there's several documents. I'm not going to open each one, but I highly encourage you to open them and save them to your computer. The auto program standards were revised and released in 2022. And so the auto program standards 2022 is exactly that. It goes over everything, policies, and it's a generally useful document. The auto tools and equipment will list all three levels of accreditation. Our programs accredit at the MLR level. There's MLR, AST, and MAST. So right there's a good resource for the required tools and equipment. And then also the auto task lists for all three levels of accreditation. A very useful form is the auto program evaluation form. That breaks down all the standards and what needs to be in each file when we do our application. And so it's a really good document. Highly recommend downloading it. And then also is the auto summary of changes in 2022. So the last time there was a last version of accreditation was the 2018. So this will have all the changes between 2018 and 2022. Next, let's look at the accreditation forms drop down. By clicking on that, it will open up all the forms. Besides just automotive, there's collision repair, because ASE accredits collision repair programs and also truck heavy equipment programs. So let's zoom in on the accreditation forms for automotive. So under the accreditation forms dropdown, here is a zoomed in look at the various accreditation forms for automotive. And again, I recommend clicking on all of them and downloading the information. A little overview. The accreditation gap analysis is a new tool that ASE put together that goes over each of the standards and kind of asks questions. It's great for a new administrator, new instructor, to when they're doing the application or prior to doing the application, hey, what do we need? And it goes step by step. There's some videos also with each standard, some resources, some forms. They're continuing to add forms and examples. So again, it's a great resource. The auto program evaluation form is a duplicate from the earlier, and that has all the information for going over each standard. After we do each evaluate the program, we have our advisory committee evaluate our program. We don't put in the scores between 1 and 5. Our advisory committee members do that. We take those scores, add them together, and find an average, and we put that in the auto application. But this is for doing the application by a paper pencil. It's also a good resource for doing it through the portal, and because we'll need those numbers when we do the application in the portal, as we'll be talking about shortly. There's also an auto instructor qualifications sheet showing the ASEs that the instructor needs to have, and discusses the technical 20 hours of technical update training each year. So that's also a good resource. The auto compliance review evaluation form is basically the midpoint review. So the evaluation form has more detail in it and goes step by step. So instead of looking at the program every 5 years, there's a midpoint review at the 2.5-year point. And so at that point, schools and advisory committee does the auto compliance review, and they're kind of seeing what has changed, what has stayed the same, what do we need to look at. Instead of every 5 years, we're looking at the program in depth every 2.5 years. There's no fee for doing the midpoint compliance. It's required. And then we have the form that we fill in, and then we send that in with our past 2 advisory committee meeting minutes and our instructor qualifications with ASEs and update training. A great resource that I highly recommend using and referring to is the Auto ETL Handbook. This is more information in detail than any other document. Download that. That is what they use to train the ETLs or evaluation team leaders that ASE assigns to do the on-site visit. There's a lot of information on the process in there and what to look for. So great resource is the Auto ETL Handbook. And then also the auto final report form. So at the end of the on-site visit, there will be a final report that is turned in, and an example of the form right there. The main things are the gap analysis, great starting out, the evaluation form, going through that and updating standards, and that's what the advisory committee will use to rate each of the standards. But the ETL handbook is a great resource. Next, let's look at the advisory committee drop down, and we'll zoom in on those documents. So here are four documents in a webinar on advisory committees. Um, so the advisory committee is there to help guide our program. It's industry saying this is what we need to provide input on what needs to be emphasized in the classroom since they're hiring our students. Help with determining equipment, what type of equipment, and getting input from the committee on various purchases. So the advisory committee is a very important part, almost the most important part of accreditation. Standard 6 is focusing just on the advisory committee and what it does for our program. So these documents are great for all programs, not just automotive, but they have in there a sample agenda. There's also a webinar how to set up a successful CTE advisory committee. Helpful hints for the committees, a little bit on meeting minutes, and then also a handbook. So great resources. Also on the Moodle, I've put together a document that will help cover what needs to be covered in meetings throughout the year. that we need for accreditation. A little bit of it's touched on in here, but go to the Moodle, the automotive service Moodle, and that document will be very helpful also. So that wraps up the various resources that on the ASE Education Foundation's website. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. There's my email address right there, but we're not done. So just wanted to kind of stop right here. And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm here to help. So let's go on to the next part. So in this part, we're going to discuss the portal, or specifically logging into the portal. Hopefully it will be beneficial. So to log into the portal, we go to the ASE Education Foundation's homepage. And in the top right, you'll see in the orange there, the login. I'm pointed out with the green arrow. Click on the login, and that will take you to the next page. So in the login page, we have several options. If you know um, your email password, put them in there and log in. A little tip, you don't have to change the password on this currently, don't have to change the password on this website. So when you set it, it's set for a while. It's not one of those that continuously has to change, but it's a good practice to always update and change passwords over time. So we have several options here. Again, if you know it, great. Then you have, I'm interested in accreditation and send me my login credentials. So let's go to send me my login credentials first. So when we click on send me my login credentials, we're basically resetting our password. For that, we'll need our email and our program ID. Generally, program IDs are 6-digit numbers that each accredited program is assigned. And so if you know that, write it down somewhere and keep it for future reference. If you're unsure of your program ID, please email me and say, hey, I need program ID. With your name, obviously I'll have your email address, and I can send the program ID number to you. If you've been into the portal before, this is a great resource. So what happens is when we put in our email and program ID, the system goes in and looks for that email address. So you already need to be associated with that school. If it doesn't see the email address, it won't let you reset your password. So what do you do in that case? You send me an email and say, hey, I tried to get into the portal and I wasn't able to, and then I will put your information into the portal, and it might take a day or so to get it done, and then you'll be able to access the portal. I'll update the contact information. And so this is for new administrators, new instructors, or established people who haven't been into the portal before. Email, program ID. If you need your program ID, email me and I will send it your way. And if you have any troubles getting in, shoot me an email and we'll see why and go from there. So a lot of times when someone cannot reset their password, they'll click on this one, I'm interested in accreditation. And this is basically for brand new programs. So in North Carolina, 99% of our programs are already in the system. So we don't need to click on I'm interested in accreditation. That basically kind of starts the whole process of setting up a new program. It's great when we are starting a new program at a new school, but basically the general rule is don't use that. Click on I'm interested in accreditation. Contact me, shoot me an email, and we'll get the information correct. This prevents duplication. The system behind the scenes it needs a little fine tuning, so it'll let you go in and start a whole nother program, and it just adds to the confusion. So basically, if you can't reset your password, shoot me an email and we'll get it figured out. So we looked at the various resources. We looked in logging into the portal, and now let's do a little overview of the accreditation process. But first, let's some basic information. So with basic information, ASE accredits programs for 5 years. Halfway through, we need to do the midpoint compliance review. So every 5 years, we'll end up having a on-site visit. We do the application. Our advisory committee does the application and the ratings. If it's a reaccreditation, it's a one-day visit. And With the midpoint compliance, there's no fees with that. It's just where the advisory committee is looking at all the standards halfway through and seeing if anything needs to be addressed at the midpoint instead of every 5 years. We need to have a minimum of 2 advisory committee meetings a year. I generally recommend having one in the fall and one in the spring. Again, that's a minimum. We can have more than 2 committee meetings a year. At least one of them need to be held at the school. If you're thinking about holding the meetings off-site and not at the school, please contact me so we can talk and discuss. I want to make sure we meet all the requirements, but generally, if not having both meetings at the school, one of them definitely has to be held at the school. And sometimes that's where we have a third meeting, where we bring all our committees together for a third meeting, and then we have our 2 dedicated advisory committees meetings at the school focusing on our automotive program. Again, applications need to be turned in 6 months prior to when the program's accreditation expires. If you're unsure about that date, please contact me and I will send you that. If you let accreditation expire more than 60 days, then you're unable to do a renewal and you'll have to do an initial, which is more money. And besides that, it turns into a 2-day on-site visit instead of a 1-day. So highly recommend doing the application 6 months prior to expiration. And then we do not have a lapse in accreditation. And then lastly, right there is the program accreditation level. We are accredited currently at the MLR level, maintenance and light repair. That's why we have to have 540 hours of classroom and lab time. And so if we take our 4 courses, automotive service fundamentals, automotive service 1, 2, and 3, 135 hours each times 4, that gives us our 540 hours of needed for MLR accreditation. So the accreditation process. First, go to the ASE Education Foundation website and get the latest standard and forms that we discussed earlier. Download them, make sure you're current. Generally, accreditation standards are revised every 3 to 4 years. So it's probably changed from the last time the program was accredited. So get those updated standards. Next, what we're going to do is update the files. This is a team effort between instructors, administrators, and the advisory committee. Go through updating the files. Everyone gets a part of it. A lot of times the first few standards are a lot with administration in the school. And then the other standards is a lot with a combination of administrators and instructors on how things are done in the classroom. So this is getting your CIMC involved, your CDC involved, your CTE director, assistant director, principal, and the instructor. So it is truly a team effort. So having the advisory committee comes together to review and rate the standards. So the school instructor administrators do not rate the standards. It's the advisory committee basically saying, this is how we see our program. And they rate it 1 to 5. If they rate something low, at the end of the day, you can say, what do you want to, what information do you need? Because we've already gone through and updated the files. So ask them what they would like. And so the committee is basically doing the ratings and the application. We take those ratings and we submit the application in the portal, and we discuss how to get into the portal. So the next thing that happens is that the application is reviewed by ASE. A little bit of information here. What they're a lot of times looking for is that as everything's filled in, that we've got our advisory meeting minutes, all the ratings are filled in. And as a general rule, you want to have a rating of 4 or above for each of the standards. So by knowing this, if your advisory committee rated you a 3 in something in an area, you can say, okay, what do we need to focus on, and increase that to a 4. So that's kind of the what they're looking for. If everything looks good, they will assign an ETL or evaluation team leader. That when you get that information, contact the ETL. Sometimes the ETL will reach out to the school, or if you get the information, reach out to the ETL. Set up a date. This date needs to be held during normal school days when students are present. And you will also send additional information to the ETL. So this will be, a little bit of time out so the ETL can look over the documents before the visit and become familiar with the program. But the biggest thing is contacting and communicating with the ETL. If you have any troubles contacting the ETL, please let me know, and we will get that communications going. For the on-site, we'll need to have team members. If it's a recert, we only need 2 team members for 1 day. Ideally, those are new people from industry, technicians, shop foreman, somebody that knows what automotive with a technical background. And they're there for 1 day. If it's an initial, we need to have 3 team members for 2 days. And that's where it becomes difficult getting someone out of work for 2 days to come to the school. So that's where doing the application early prevents having to do an initial. Plus it's also the fee increases. So after we set a date for the on-site, generally sometimes we'll also have a backup date in case something changes. Most of the ETLs are also instructors. Some are former instructors, but most are instructors, and they're teaching also. So it's kind of finding that day when they're able to come see your school, and then and a day when you have students also. So on the on-site, you want to set a separate room for the team where they can meet and lay out the paperwork and go over everything, kind of just a meeting room that is near ideally near the automotive classroom lab, if that's possible. The instructor is teaching. You don't bring in a sub or anything else, and the instructor is teaching a normal day. So let them have at it. And then at the end of the day, there'll be a debrief. If it's a reaccreditation, it'll be at the end of day one. If it's an initial, it's at the end of the second day. Debrief, I highly recommend having the administrators, all the administrators and instructor there, CTE director, principal, so the team can say, hey, this is what we found. This is, strengths, weaknesses. I do want to note that the ETL does not have any authority to say the program passed or the program did not pass. That only comes from ASE. But the debrief at the end of the day is very beneficial, and being there is also very beneficial. Then the ETL will get the documents within a week or two after the on-site. ASE will review these documents and determine if any improvements need to be made prior to reaccrediting the program, or issue accreditation for 5 years. If there are any issues, we address them. The best programs have areas for improvement, and the worst programs are doing things right. So on both sides of that. And then I also wanted to note in here, so after we turn in the application, the clock starts ticking, and we have 1 year to complete the accreditation process from when we turn the application in. And generally, it does not take that long, but sometimes it does, and that's why it is strongly recommended doing the application 6 months prior to the program expiring, and so there is no lapse in accreditation. And again, if there's any questions you have, do not hesitate to contact me at any of these steps or along the way. So that wraps up the accreditation process. Again, if you have questions, please contact me. But I also wanted to include in here some general trade and industry information, discuss a little bit of Skills USA and social media. Since Skills USA is the aligned CTSO for this course, I'd like to share some upcoming dates for the upcoming 23-24 school year. The State Leadership Workshop will be held October 1st to the 3rd at Camp Dixie again in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Great 3-day experience for both students, new instructors, established instructors. It's a great leadership workshop for students. Learn a lot about skills, starting a chapter, running them. Paul and Rod do great work at this workshop. Our regional rally competitions don't have any dates yet, but generally they're held in February, March of 2024. The state conference will be held in Greensboro, April 23rd to the 25th. And then the national conference again will be in Atlanta, Georgia, June 24th to the 28th. So mark your calendars with these important dates. Also, if you do not receive it already, did a little QR code there, is the Skills USA Monday memo. Again, Paul and Rod do a great job at sharing the information about upcoming events and deadlines, and everything going on with Skills USA comes out Monday morning in your email, and it's a great way to um, stay engaged with skills and what's going on. Also, a lot of times, if there's any scholarships or anything to help students, they will include that also in the memo. So take a minute, click on the QR code, and get the Monday memo. As always, you can follow us on social media. CTE for NC. There's a Facebook page, there's an Instagram, there's a Twitter page, there's LinkedIn, and then there's a YouTube channel. Just search for CTE for NC. If you're doing something with your students, and share it. It's a great way for the public to learn what we're doing. A lot of times we're the best kept secret. No one realizes what we're doing and how we're changing students' lives. So again, hashtag CTE for NC on social media, and there's the various platforms that you can share and go look and see what's going on in CTE in North Carolina. I want to thank you for your time today. I hope this session has been beneficial. There's a lot more information. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. That's what I'm here for, to support schools, to help as much as I can along the way. ASE accreditation makes sure that we have good quality program and are meeting industry's needs. I believe in it, and it's a big process, but it makes sure we have quality programs. So again, I hope everything in this was beneficial. Please do not hesitate to contact me. I will be sending out emails throughout the upcoming year. I hope you have a great summer conference, and look forward to seeing everyone. Stay safe.